What was that game? Absolutely, what was that game? What's up, everyone? Welcome back to your New York Mets post-game show here on both of our channels, where we will be discussing and ranting and just trying to figure out what the reason behind this loss was, because there are a lot of reasons why the Mets lost this game. It was an ugly performance, especially in the start. And it looked like they didn't even know a game was happening today at Citi Field in front of the home crowd. Before we fully get into it, Rob, how are you doing today?
Pitching. Again, I mean, David Peterson, normal rest, not good. It's just a continued problem. And, you can't pitch Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong every single day. And if Peterson pitches like this, I'm not saying he's going to pitch that bad, but he had nothing today. And, he's the type of guy that even if he doesn't have his stuff, is the type of guy to battle through it. He just had absolutely nothing. And then if it wasn't for Chris Davinsky, I mean, we would have probably lost 11-2, like the way the pitching was going. But for the most part, the bullpen held the lead until Diaz kind of gave up a couple more runs or held the deficit. And Juan Soto had a game, but nobody's going to talk about that because the pitching sucked and the Mets lost, and now are on the verge of losing 3 out of 4 against the Marlins at home. That's a problem.
That's an abysmal outlook, heading into tomorrow. And I'm sure as soon as we're done with this post-game stream, I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of my night and not even think twice about this team because, it just seemed like they didn't think twice about this game, especially David Peterson. But before we fully get into this post-game recap here, we're not going to be here too long with you all because this game did go a little bit over. But make sure to smash the thumbs up buttons on both of our channels. Subscribe to both of our channels. If you're not subscribed to one channel over the other, make sure you hit the subscribe on both and comment your thoughts and opinions in the live chat. It is a safe space. Whatever you feel about the New York Mets after this infuriating 11-8 loss, let us know. That is definitely appreciated. And follow us over on social media as well: Instagram, TikTok, X, all that fun stuff. The problem really started here, as you can see with this box score, David Peterson. That is, when you are considered your team's best pitcher, especially after the Kodai Senga injury, not having seen Manaea for quite some time, and Nolan McLean just coming up. So we're talking about the outlook before Nolan McLean got here. You're supposed to be the stopper, right? And we've seen that version of David Peterson in the past, especially most notably recently against the Washington Nationals, where he delivered 8 innings of one earned run baseball. This outing from Peterson was an absolute joke. 2 innings, 8 earned runs over 65 pitches, and the ERA skyrockets to 3.61. But who cares about that, right? We always talk about this, Rob. If you're a starting pitcher for the New York Mets, keep it competitive.
Yep.
Keep it competitive and keep your team in the ball game, whether you're able to only go 5 innings, 6 innings, whatever. But all too often, we're talking about starts from these starters that are 4 innings from Kodai Senga, 2 innings from David Peterson, and that's just not sustainable. And things could have been a lot worse going into tomorrow from the bullpen outlook if Davinsky hadn't come in and thrown 3 scoreless innings. So that's a great job by Davinsky to save a little bit of the bullpen as much as he could at the very minimum. But, the offense did claw their way back. 8 runs in a ball game should win you a ball game, right? More often than not, if your pitching is competitive, 8 runs is supposed to win you a ball game. But today, it just wasn't enough. And it's a damn shame that Juan Soto had himself a really good game at the plate today with multiple home runs, right? Mashing his 34th and 35th home run of the season. And we're going to spend almost basically no time talking about it because we have to go out there, and come onto this post game and explain and try to understand and reason why Peterson is so inconsistent now over his past, 5 or 6 starts. Why Brandon Nimmo is all of a sudden lackadaisical and just looks terrible out in left field. That contributed to a 5-run first inning for the Miami Marlins. The Marlins basically flipped the script on the New York Mets from what happened in the first inning last night, right? They basically flipped the script and said, okay, we'll have one of these games ourselves. Embarrassing performance, Rob. Embarrassing.
Yeah, who know what would have happened if Nimmo didn't misplay that ball in left field? It could have kept it to what, 2 runs instead of getting the 5 runs to start the game. Again, it's just frustrating because how many people 2 weeks ago were saying David Peterson is the guy to go game one in a postseason game. Like this is the problem that I've talked about this whole time. I do not trust this rotation. I don't care about Nolan McLean. I don't care about Jonathan. We still are not going to know who those guys are until they get into the playoff and pitch. All right, as good as they might be, the rest of the season is not going to satisfy me into thinking that they're going to be very good in the postseason. Until I see it, I'm not going to get excited about it because the guys that you're paying $20 million to, you're paying $15 million to, you're paying $11 million to in Holmes, Minaya, and Senga. That's nearly $35-40 million in guys that you were supposed to trust in your rotation. And David Peterson is making basically chump change, but he has been the best out of those guys. And it's not enough. And they continue to disappoint time after time after time. And now we have to get excited about Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong putting all the pressure on them. And can they do it? Who knows? But that get me excited about those kids because of the lack of performance of the big money guys in this rotation. Again, it's not really big money because we know David Stern will spend big money on pitching, but this is what you get when you go the cheap route in every aspect of this rotation. I'm sick and tired of it. David Peterson is a guy that 2 years ago nobody wanted him back on this team. So this is the same guy that nobody wanted on this team prior to last year. It's a fact. Everybody talked about it. Nobody wanted David Peterson coming back. And now people want him to start game one. That's what it was a couple of weeks ago. It goes back to the same thing. When you go the cheap route with starting pitching, I don't care who it is, you're going to find games, a lot of games, like you have been. Guys who are lackluster, guys who hasn't thrown enough innings in Clay Holmes, Sean Manaea, who hasn't had a great season in 6 years, and you give him $20 million for a 4-month season of a really good performance, and he was great those 4 months, but it was 4 months of a season, and you gave him $20 million. Same thing goes for Frankie Montas over Jose Quintana, who was chump change compared to Frankie Montas. And then Senga is a guy that it's not Stearns' fault. He's on this rotation, but they do everything they can to make everything right for Kodai Senga, and he spits the bit every single time. And I don't want to hear about injuries. I don't want to hear about coming back and getting stronger. The fact of the matter is those guys have failed. That was the reason why the Mets are in this position. We can talk about the offense all you want, but since June, the pitching has been abysmal, completely abysmal. Basically, no chance of winning games. That's how bad the offense has. The pitching has been, and I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. And if you have confidence, or anybody has confidence going into this remainder of the season, when you just lost the 2 out of 3 so far to the Marlins, and it's been mostly because of pitching, I don't have no confidence because Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong is again, it's pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. It is another propaganda for Stearns just to say, hey, look, I tried something, and then everybody's gonna forget about it and say, well, at least we saw these guys pitch. The fact of the matter is you needed somebody at the top of this rotation that has experience and somebody that, again, if McLean was so important, so good, and everybody thought he was in this organization, he should have been up months ago. The winning factor isn't the main goal. And this has been the problem that I've had the whole time. And I'm sick of it because you're going to get performances like this from Kodai Senga and Peterson and Minaya and so forth, Chris.
This season, even given the playoff spot that the Mets are in right now, it has at times felt, whether it was the deadline, whether it was the offseason, whatever, it has felt like David Stearns is still trying to prioritize a little bit of that developmental factor, which I don't know if I can necessarily blame him for, but the fact that you don't go all in, at multiple points of this past year after signing Juan Soto. I'm talking about from a free agent perspective or a trade perspective to make this team better. I would have to agree with you. I mean, the future outlook of this rotation is still super bright, given the two guys that are up right now, Brandon Sproat, Jack Wenninger. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Rob, I know that you don't care about these young guys whatsoever. You just want to see winning right now. You want the proven guy. But, I don't know. I just can't help but feel like David Stearns is just banking on like a 2026 rotation, having four young guys in it, and then just backfilling it with Kodai Senga, Manaea, whoever else is going to be part of this rotation, Clay Holmes. It's a weird way to build a rotation. Could this rotation the core of this rotation be solid maybe in 2027 and beyond? Yeah, absolutely, with the young talent that's there. But we're not playing for 2027 right now. We shouldn't be playing for 2026. We're playing for 2025. And that's really infuriating with the guys that are going out there basically every fourth or fifth day and shitting the bed, so to speak, because it's just been not pretty. And David Peterson has been fine this season. So has Clay Holmes. Neither of them are aces. And David Peterson is the closest thing outside of Nolan McLean. Nolan McLean is your ace for the rest of the season. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if it's only 3 starts. He has put away stuff. He has swing and miss stuff that David Peterson doesn't have. You will rarely find a pitcher in this league that is considered an ace, quote unquote, of a team that is more of a contact pitcher than a put away pitcher. And that's what David Peterson is. He's a viable number 3, and that's about it. And the fact that he has been entrusted for the large majority of the season to be that ace, especially after Kodai Senga went down, is a disservice to this team. And we've been basically seeing why this team has been losing a lot of games, especially as of recent, even with great offensive performances like today. And I see the chat here, most notably here. I mean, Ricardo, if I could solve this, because this goes back, a couple of decades now. If I could solve this, I'd be making more money off of this YouTube stuff than I'm doing right now, that I'm making right now. And that's the bottom line. So I've got no idea. It just seems like there are certain teams for the Mets, from the Mets perspective, it's basically all the inferior opponents. It doesn't matter if you're the Marlins, the Nationals, the Pirates. I don't care who you are. If you have a below 500 record, the Mets will play down to you and you can easily take a series from them. That's how it's felt for the longest time. Not even this season, Rob. We've been having these conversations going back to 2023 when we first started doing these streams together. It's been absolutely putrid. And I have no idea, because guess what? The Phillies, the division leaders, come into town and they all of a sudden play clean baseball, right? No mistakes. How does that happen? Like, what does your mindset have to be? Is this team just not taking their competition seriously when a team like the Marlins walks into the doors? It's absolutely just insane to me to even fathom and try to piece together why that is.
Well, don't we just put it on the core? I mean, shouldn't they go back to the core? Because this is during with different managers, different ownership, different GMs. So you can't blame the executives, you can't blame the front office, you can't blame the managers, because we had 4 of them over the last 5 years, 6 years. So, and it's the same core guys that continue to fail. And again, we can go way back to David Wright days and the Marlins, beating us and making us choke at the end and all that fun stuff as well. As obviously I'm being sarcastic, but it's like, I don't know. There's a team that always have every team has one team, no matter if they're good or bad, that they just can't beat. And the Mets have the Marlins. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter the names on the team. It doesn't matter how bad their record is. They play well against the Mets. It's just what happens. And I don't even know what it is. I don't even think it's about the Marlins, though, because you did lose 2 out of 3 against the Nationals too. So
Yeah,
it's not
the Marlins. It's not just
yeah,
the Marlins.
it's not just the Marlins. It's been all season about with bad teams. They don't play well against them, and
We
they
went
got
to Pittsburgh. We went to Pittsburgh, dropped hard-earned money to watch them get embarrassed that whole series.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like games like that is why you don't have to sweep the Phillies. If you win those games, or at least win 2 out of 4, if you split a series with the Marlins, it's not that big of a deal. If you take enough games against those teams, if you win a series against the Nationals, split a series against the Pirates or win a series against the Pirates, that Philly series, you didn't have to sweep. Like those games matter for all the people that don't care about May and April and June, and those games don't matter. they matter because you had to sweep the Phillies just to have a conversation about the
Yep.
division, and then you had to play better against the Marlins. All that effort in that Philly series now means nothing. It means nothing. It doesn't. You lose today. I think the Phillies are winning 1-0, or they were winning 1. I don't even know what it is. Who cares? The fact of the matter is, the Mets didn't help themselves. They were in prime position to really make a push here. And now, by the end of today, we're going to be talking about the possibility of the New York Mets. Now, there's still a possibility that that Red series in September is going to fucking mean something. Like, if that doesn't piss you off, then you have a major problem. And Dolo said it in the chat earlier. If the Mets kind of simmer out in the playoffs and just don't go far into the playoffs, or even if they do, let's say they get to the NLCS, like I still think that's a failure in my opinion. You made it last year with no expectation. With the expectation this year and you got to the NLCS, you better get to the World Series or it's a failure. If you don't believe that, then you have a losing mentality. David Stearns is going to rationalize not winning the World Series. This is what he does. That's his propaganda. He did it in the trade deadline. And as soon as the Mets season is over, 4 minutes after the season is over, he'll come through the media and start talking about nonsense, about the young pitchers and this and that. But nobody is going to question him, especially at the media, because they're blowing him at this point. And excuse my language, but it's a fact. They're not gonna bring up the question of why didn't you bring up these guys earlier? Because they could have made a difference. You know what? Wouldn't Nolan McLean look nice pitching in PNC Park or Jonah Tong when we were there? That would have looked nice. Do you know the pitching that we saw in Pittsburgh?
David
We had
Peterson, the
Montage.
same David Peterson today blew up in Pittsburgh as well, if
Correct.
I remember correctly.
Montage pitch. I think we had an opener, and I think Kodai Senga was out in 3. I think Kodai Senga pitched. He pitched like 3 innings, if I'm not mistaken. Like, come on. Like, this is the problem. Like, if you're not going to prioritize winning, why are you here? I don't give a shit about 2026. I don't care what anybody says. I don't give a shit what Nolan McLean does for me in 2026. It might not be enough what Nolan McLean does now or Jonah Tong does now to make a tremendous difference. I said this in the pregame. Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong can make a dent. It's going to be very hard for them to make a big difference when you got Senga, Minaya, and Peterson and Holmes pitching the way they've been pitching. It's just not good enough. You got 4 guys that you have to get through just to get to those guys, the young kids pitching again. It's not going to be enough. And I think that's what the conversation should be. It shouldn't be about Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong as the end all or the saviors, because that's what it's becoming. It has nothing. No, not enough people are talking about the main guys in this rotation that should be at least above average at best, and none of them have. Clay Holmes has kind of lingered on the average line, but that's not even enough. You got too many number 3s and number 4s in this rotation. But again, the cheap rotation route is what you're getting right now. You're getting 3s and 4s because that's what you paid for. Congratulations. This is what you have. You paid for it.
I know that we are ranting here about this loss because at the very best, we're going to be, evening a series up tomorrow or trying to against Sandy, Alcantara, who is coming into this start tomorrow, really good last 3 outings for him and kind of figuring some stuff out. So that's scary within itself. But I will say, I see James in the chat here. Let's not get too carried away. I will say that about this point in the season. Like, this team is not a non-playoff team. This team is still a playoff team. And I don't think that this team is absolutely toast for this season. Like, things are looking bad right now about the process of the starting pitching, but I don't think that they're done, Rob. Like, would you say that this team is done? Because they're still up in the wild card, and I know that
Agree.
the production isn't there from the pitching side, and if we don't start to see it soon, then it might be bad news. But I still think this team gets in the playoffs. I've said it. I don't believe in the Reds. The Reds are losing right now.
Yeah.
Phillies and Braves are tied. It doesn't really matter what other teams are doing as long as the Mets start to win and actually show some heart out there, because nothing, I don't care. Like, David Peterson didn't have it aside. Who cares? The lack of just, urgency in the field, especially from Brandon Nimmo. And this comment right here from Ricardo, like, I would love for this to be the case. But what are you doing with Brandon Nimmo if he's not going to be in the outfield? His bat has been serviceable. What is he batting? 260 around this season. He's starting to heat up just a little bit with his bat. He had another multi-hit game today, if I'm not mistaken, but he's not good enough to be an everyday DH. Now, when you also have to think about Mark Vientos, if he sticks around past the offseason, being in the DH conversations, if Brett Beatty sticks around to play third base more consistently, there's just a logjam. And unfortunately, with the contract that Nimmo has, he's not going anywhere either. And I just don't think that the Mets have enough. It's just too much of a logjam to try to even have him be a full-time DH. Part-time, sure, but that's really it. He's still going to be in the outfield on a handful of occasions, and he's still going to be hobbling around over there. He's still going to have a noodle arm, and his defensive performance is just pissing me off. I'll say that.
I think Met fans have become complacent. I truly believe that. I honestly believe that. Like, these comments are ridiculous. I'm sorry, guys. I love all you guys. I appreciate all the support, but these are ridiculous. Like, you're going to say, oh, supporting September means a lot. Like, June doesn't mean a lot. Like, August doesn't mean a lot. Like, stop acting like September means a lot. September shouldn't have mattered for the Mets this year. We were 20 plus games over 500 prior to the early part of June. This shouldn't have been a conversation about possibly being. I'm not saying we're going to not make the playoffs, but again, is making the playoffs the only thing that matters? That, oh, let's just get in? Like, that's a loser mentality. This was not supposed to be, oh, let's just make the playoffs. Mandatory was the playoffs. Getting into the playoffs, we were supposed to be talking about. Now, again, there's nobody really that good enough to say that they're dominant, where they're just going to, blow over everybody in the NL or in the American League. But, I mean, we see it in front of our eyes. Can anybody get hot? Sure, absolutely. But why do we just assume it's the Mets? Like, the Mets can't score 8 runs and lose. This has been constant since June. The Mets were scoring runs. Even when they weren't, scoring 7 runs per game, they were still losing games 5-4, 4-3, 6-5. All through that stretch. It's a huge problem. And the complacency from Met fans now is getting completely annoying. And don't tell me it's going to be okay. Like, again, have we won a World Series and I just slept through it? I mean, in my lifetime, there's nothing. What has been exciting for this organization? We have OMG and Grimace that we got excited about. We have My Girl now that we sing. And that's what we care about, but nobody gives a shit about the fact that they have the highest payroll in baseball, and they're playing like a mid-market team. That's what they are. You got a mid-market rotation, probably lesser than a mid-market rotation. We continue to act like it's okay, and then everybody gets, goes crazy for the young kids, which is awesome. But when you really needed them, they weren't here. So blame Stearns. Stearns didn't do nothing at the deadline. He made bad moves. Again, you blame the players. You blame Helsley. But you know what? He's going to take the brunt of it because he didn't do his job. I'm sorry. There was so many needs in this rotation where you couldn't, if you wanted to go to the internal route, and I didn't need to see highlights since June about these kids striking out 10 batters, 7 innings. I stopped the notifications on everybody who is a reporter or anybody that watches or listens or does some work with the minor league system for the Mets, because every freaking day I have to see Nolan McLean, Jonah Tom, Brandon Sproat, Carson Benz, Jet Williams, all do great, amazing things, and that's nice. But what are they doing for this team? Right now, finally, they're doing something. And you know what? It might be too late, not to make the playoffs, but to make a major dent in what we're supposed to do. This is supposed to be a World Series team, not a team that might not even win 90 games, by the way, right? We got 73 wins. What do we got? 26 games to go? 26 games to go.
It'll be close.
Are we going to go 13-13? That is 86 wins, ladies and gentlemen. That might get you into the playoffs. You hope. You better have more than a 4-game lead by the time you get to Cincinnati. Because if anybody thinks that you're going to beat Cincinnati because you're going to see them as a little league team and a small market team that clearly you don't need to try hard, and you're going to get embarrassed, just like they did against the Nationals and right now like they're doing against the Marlins. And when we were wasting our money and our time in Pittsburgh getting our asses kicked by a team that doesn't even care. Like here we and now, by the way, we didn't even face Paul Skeens, by the way, just so everybody knows that. Like this is the problem. We're getting complacent here. Why do we all seem like it's okay? This should have been a well over 90 win team, and it shouldn't be even a conversation that we have to think about. Everybody just assumes the playoffs is right in our hands. It might be, but it might not be because the Mets play well. It might be because the Reds aren't good enough, and that's not always a good sign going into the playoffs at
Yeah.
all.
So well, first of all, I have 2 points that I want to make. The first point, and this is all like we're talking about pitching. I'll put up the box score here again to show you all what the hitting did, because the hitting, I mean, they showed up. They showed up and they clawed their way back, and Soto tied the game up, and then Rogers came in and gave up the unearned run, or the earned run, I should say. But I just feel like we're not talking about the offense for a reason, because they're not to blame for this loss whatsoever. But first of all, my point is that I agree with you. I'm not too hurt or too disappointed, I guess is the better word to use, in David Stearns not trading for a rotation arm at the deadline, because, if the prices were astronomical, okay, but the point that you made, and that I do agree with 100%, is looking at the trajectory of this rotation. I don't think even us fans realized when this first started to snowball how bad these pitchers were going to be, right? I mean, maybe you did, but I didn't think it was going to be to this extent. Like, there was going to be a drop off, maybe a major drop off, but not this major. Like, this is like bad at this point. But I think the silver lining would have been, okay, you realize that if you're Stearns, you didn't want to pay the prices for a starting pitcher. And I agree with you. Just call up one of the kids. If it was Nolan McLean the whole time that was showing that he was more ready, call him up earlier. I mean, we were talking about calling up Nolan McLean in the beginning of August.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Slash late July. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's the first thing that I wanted to bring up. So I think that's a valid point by you. Second point that I want to bring up too, though, is that last season, though, with where the Mets got to, and they got hot at the right time, like in August, the last few days of August, with the rotation, the outlook in 2024, what it was, were we confident in that rotation? Because I wasn't. Jose Quintana had his best month in September. He really started to turn it on. I'm pretty sure he wasn't doing so hot, maybe as hot in September as he was in August. Same thing with Severino, who had a 4+ ERA in August. Kodai Senga was nowhere to be found because he was injured again. And Manaya was having a good season. That was undeniable, right? But like, my point is that uh, maybe they do turn it around. It's wishful thinking, but we were also in a similar boat last season with the outlook. I'm not talking about record wise. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm just talking about not knowing what we were going to get long term in a potential playoff race from the rotation. And they strapped up and they had a pretty decent month of September. Quintana had a historical month of September, and Severino pitched to a 3.64 ERA, which is not too shabby himself in the month of September 2024. I'm not saying this rotation is going to do that, but I would hope that they'll be better than they were in August. Again, wishful thinking, projecting it out is anyone's guess, but I don't know. For me, like, we can talk about an individual game, because that's what we're here to talk about, and how disappointing this is. And it has snowballed with the rotation, especially. But I just can't talk about this team in a light to say that they're cooked or they're done or they're not a playoff team, because they are going to be a playoff team. I already said last stream that we did together, Rob, if the Mets don't make the playoffs, I will make a standalone stream. I'll do a giveaway. I don't care what I got to do. Pull the receipts on me. I don't care. I'm not even going to knock on wood. I don't think the Reds are a threat to the Mets, but they do have to start playing better, because if we use this, whole, I guess, rationale of get hot at the right time, we need to actually see them get hot at the right time. And guess what? Part of the definition of getting hot is it's beating opponents that you should be beating. And I'm sorry, the Marlins, the Nationals, the Pirates, these are opponents you should be taking care of. And they haven't been. And that's what's the most frustrating thing for me is. But I'm hopeful going into September. Maybe it's wishful thinking. I don't know. but we saw it last year. The guy had the right time. We saw where they ended up. Yeah, it's not the World Series, but it was pretty damn good for coming into 2024 with no expectations. Maybe I'm just trying to put a positive spin on it. I don't know. But a spade is a spade. Let me just say this. Am I confident in Clay Holmes in a playoff start? No, right? We really don't know what we're going to get from Jonah Tong. I am confident in Nolan McLean, and I think that he can carry this through the rest of the season. I think he's that talented. I'm not confident in Clay Holmes. David Peterson, you have to be. The thing is, you have to be confident in David Peterson because you can't be confident in Senga. You can't be confident in Holmes. And you're just by process of elimination, you got to be confident in David Peterson. So hopefully Peterson can turn it around. It's been a tale of two halves for David Peterson. I think I saw a split first half versus second half for David Peterson. I think it came from Anthony DeComo, and his ERA in the second half is over 4 compared to, I think, under 3 in the first half. So this is not really a new thing from David Peterson. Just because he went out there and tossed 8 innings against the Nationals, like he's had a relatively struggled filled second half from the stats, the numbers, and just looking at him go out there every 5th or 6th day. And that is concerning to me too.
Yeah. I just happened to look up at the SNY post game, and they're showing the numbers of Kodai Senga compared to Sandy Alcantara the last 3 games. Sandy Alcantara, who nobody actually wanted or wanted to overpay, 1.80 ERA, over a 10 strikeouts per 9 over the last 3 games. He's been damn good. And you know what? How convenient and how perfect of a scenario Alcantara makes this team look stupid tomorrow. Like, as good as the offense has been, again, you know what? They probably will score runs because the offense has been so good, and they have not been denied lately.
They knocked around Edward Cabrera. They knocked him out of the game after 4 innings. They put up.
He's been their best pitcher.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But again, and it's not even. It's just so. It just doesn't make sense. The fact that people are talking about be positive, the Mets will make the playoffs because the Reds aren't good enough. If the Mets don't make the playoffs, it's because of the Mets, not the Reds. That's the problem. This has nothing to do with the Reds. This has everything to do with the Mets. The Mets determine if they make the playoffs or not. The Mets could fuck this up, not the Reds making it a problem. This has nothing to do with the Reds. The Reds aren't good enough, but the Mets can be bad enough to make it a problem. And that's the problem. That is the issue. And again, when you got 4 guys out of 6 going every day starting and they're not good, it's hard to win ball games. You can't ask the offense to score 8 runs every day. You got to win 3-2 games. You know what? When the Mets tied that game, they needed to win it. Somebody needed to put up a 0. None of them did. That's the problem.
Soto did. I think Soto did.
Yeah.
Rogers did not. Diaz did not.
But that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter. The starting pitcher could be good. The bullpen will fail. The starting pitcher can be so-so. The bullpen can be so-so. It would be a game like that. The bullpen could be excellent, but it's because of the starter that gave up 5 runs, like the other day with Kodai Senga. He gave up, 5 runs the other day? And the bullpen put 0s. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Like, that's the problem. Like, it keeps on becoming the same problem over and over again. And then when we get later into the year and it's September 20th, and people are going to be like, it'll be okay. When? 2027? Like, I don't care about these pitchers that should have been up here to help us. And it's not even about today's game. Why does these games matter? Because of games prior and months prior. Your June swoon puts you in this position. We got 73 wins, guys. Like, I'm hoping 86 wins get us there, because if anybody believes that they can play over 500 over the next 26 games, I think that's how many we have left. Like, I mean, I don't know, guys. Like, Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong could be great, but would that be enough? Would it really be enough? And then we're trusting guys with no experience in the postseason, even though they can be damn good. Because, again, we see DeGrom did it. We see Syndergaard, Matz, all those guys, and Harvey and all those guys do it with no experience. But it ended up being the experienced guys in that postseason that ultimately failed in the World Series, not the pitching. You know what I'm saying? So, and here, like, do we really need the veterans failing us in the postseason when the kids perform? Like, I don't know, man. I'm fuzz. This game, like, put a circle or put a crystal ball around this season, the way it is. Because I say from day one, this pitching is going to be the detriment of this team. And you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I hope you guys are laughing at me and calling me an asshole and a jerk and a negative Nancy, whatever you want to call me. I'm hoping you're calling me in October. I truly am. Because you know what? It was fun last year doing games deep into October and getting excited. I want
To do
that.
it again.
Chris, we've said it before and say it again. We can be negative at times or a lot of the time, but we would rather eat our words than be right and have the Mets win. That is a fact.
Yeah.
I'm mad because I'm sick of this team doing the same thing year after year after year, half-assing deadlines, not playing well enough, and everybody says, well, it's not so bad because we got this guy, we got that guy. And everybody talks about the young pitching, but is Pete Alonso on this team next year? Is Lindor getting a year older? Brandon Nimmo will basically be in crutches in left field. Is Jeff McNeil going to do what he did this year? You're getting a year out of Jeff McNeil you never thought of, and you're wasting it. You're wasting those years. Juan Soto's going to hit 40-plus home runs. Who penciled that in? Like, that's ridiculous. You wasted a great year from Juan Soto. And if anybody don't think it's a great year, check the stats.
It's a good year. It's a really good year.
It's a really good year, and you're wasting that year. How many more years are you going to have of Lindor being, a top shortstop in baseball? We're wasting those prime years. And nobody can tell me that Pete Alonso is guaranteed to be a New York Met after this year. So we're wasting one of his better seasons this year as well. You can't keep on wasting great season from guys you gave a ton of money to because you're just wasting away.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to your point a couple of minutes ago is the best, like, summarization of this team moving forward because this has been a weird, strange season so far. I mean, just through the ups and the downs and how it started versus how the middle months have gone, and to still be in a playoff spot given everything that's happened, that does take a little bit of luck for, other teams to just not have their shit together, like the Giants, the Diamondbacks, etc. And the Mets have lucked out to still hold this third wild card spot with how bad they've been. And I do think it is a little bit more than what David is saying in the chat about bad luck. I mean, at this point, objectively, and I try to be as objective and as reasonable as possible at all times. And I think it's a little bit more than bad luck. I think we're starting to see a little bit, right? Weeks and weeks compiled in a row that, this is becoming a trend. Like, this is a trend, not just bad luck. Can the Mets, and this is what I'll say though, off of this, is that can the Mets reverse the trend? Yes, absolutely. Like, it's getting late, but it's
Sure.
not too late. You still have a whole month left to get it together. But we need to start seeing the signs. We have the signs from the offense. The offense, nobody's worried about. I'm not even worried about the offense tomorrow against Sandy. I'm not worried about them. I think they'll put up runs and they'll put the pitching in a position to win a ball game. But if Kodai Senga decides to do what he's been doing before, they're not winning that ball game, no matter how many runs the Mets put up. They put up 8 today. It wasn't enough. So what I'll say is that with, what is it, a 4-game, 5-game lead against the Reds going into today?
I think
Was it?
it's going to be 4.5 right now until the Reds win or lose.
I think the Reds were down last time I checked too, but it doesn't
Okay,
matter. Who
let's
cares?
say it's 5.
Well, let's just say it's 5. I don't have it up. I don't want to pull it up. Whatever. Let's just say it's 5. The biggest threat to the New York Mets, like you just said, Rob, I think this is the best thing you've said this stream, is that the biggest threat to the New York Mets in 2025 is the New York Mets. They continuously beat themselves. They even beat themselves in this game. How many mistakes did they make in the opening inning? I counted 20 things that I didn't like about this game from the New York Mets, and it wasn't even the second inning. You're talking about from David Peterson, right, in the opening frame. You're talking about Brandon Nimmo in left field. Juan Soto, for some reason, being down 4 runs, decides to try to go first to third, gets thrown out. Like, that killed the rally. The best thing that I saw early on in the game was Lindor being a captain and putting one over the fence after a debacle, right, of a first inning. That's the best thing that I saw early on from this game. So, it is one game at the end of the day. The overall series is frustrating. We were frustrated with the Braves when they came into Citi Field and took a series. We were frustrated when the Mets went on the road to Washington, where they usually play well and lost the series. That's all frustrating. But I will say the Mets still decide their own fate, and it's not too late to reverse. But Kodai Senga, the walks just kill me, Rob. Peterson is starting to do it. Kodai Senga, if Kodai Senga goes out there and walks 3 to 4 hitters tomorrow, I guarantee you he's not putting up a good start because Kodai Senga, this Kodai Senga that we're getting in the second half is not pre-injury Kodai Senga. And it has nothing to do with the injury. It was his luck because Kodai Senga was getting lucky by inducing a lot of strikeouts and getting a lot of just getting out of a lot of jams. And he hasn't been able to do that. You cannot consistently work with a lot of traffic on the bases and expect to be successful over the course of an entire season. So that needs to change. I'm not saying it can't, it just needs to change, and that's the bottom line. Here's the box score from the offense. I do think we need to give credit to the offense. Um, Lindor opening up, the scoring for the Mets. Soto had a really good game, 2 for 2, 2 home runs. Alonso Nimmo, multiple hit games again. Vientos with a 3-run home run. I mean, Vientos is as hot as anybody in this lineup right now. McNeil, this was also one of the things that just absolutely infuriated me. Brett Beatty's also having a really good time at the plate. Another multi-hit game from him. You have an opportunity to tie it back up in the later stages with Jeff McNeil's leadoff triple, and you strand him. That is shooting yourself in the foot. For a team and an offense that just came back, you did all that work to come back from 6 runs down, 8-2 to tie it up, 8-8, and you get a gift of a hop off the wall for a triple for McNeil,
Yep.
and you decide to strand him. That's bad baseball. That's what losing baseball teams do. No matter how good the offense was up until that point, and I give them all the credit in the world, they're the only position group at this point, I think, in this game that deserve credit. And yeah, it's just you can't with they compiled mistakes. That's the problem. They compiled mistakes. And when you compile mistakes, it's really hard to come back from that. It's really hard.
And Chris, you talked about trends, right? Last year, the trend from June on, which was 4 months, June, July, August, September, they were the best team in baseball. From June until now, they're one of the worst teams in baseball record-wise. That's a trend. That isn't a blip on the radar, right? If you have a bad June, it's okay. Shit happens. You can have a bad month, but you got to turn it on. This is going into month 4 in a day and a half, in 48 hours. We're going into month 4 of playing bad baseball, one of the worst records in baseball since June. This isn't a blip on the radar. This isn't, they'll play better. That's a trend. You can't give credit to a trend in the hottest team in baseball last year and not give all the criticism to a team that's doing the exact same thing in the opposite direction, the same amount of time. It's not fair to give them credit and then not criticize them during the same stretch in 2 different years and say it's okay. And by the way, the Marlins, who don't swing out of the strike zone and put the bat on the ball, is the Kodai Senga's worst enemy. And I wanted to bring that up because you talked about Kodai Senga, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Jesus, this
Agreed.
is the worst team he can face. Because with the Phillies, who swing at everything, weren't swinging at his goals fork enough. And
First time through, at least, yeah.
Yeah, correct. And they were hitting the fastball. What do you think the Marlins are going to do tomorrow? You think they're going to just swing at everything out of the strike zone when they never do? They have the lowest swing rate out of the strike zone, and they put the ball in play. That is Kodai Senga's worst nightmare. And, if Kodai Senga gives me 4 innings of 2 runs or less, you don't know how excited they'd be. I swear to God, I take that. That is so sad, but it's true. Kodai Senga is the biggest hype of a pitcher coming from Japan that people think he was God, the way Met fans acted. And you know what? He was great in 2023, but there was no pressure. He had the most days off out of any starting rotation guy in baseball. And when he actually went on regular rest, he was embarrassing against the Phillies. And now he's going on regular. I think he's going on regular rest again. So how's that going to turn out? Like, I hope he surprises us. I hope we're talking on the post game and he pitched a gem because we need it.
Yeah.
And I don't even know anymore. Like, we talked about the offense can carry this team. How can an offense carry a team when you score 8 runs and lose 11-8? Like, this has happened for months. You know, this even when they score runs, they're losing games 8-7, 7-6. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, no lead is safe. We scored 19 runs yesterday, and we had to throw in a bullpen arm because Luis Turns is getting booed off the mound in a Jonathan start. Like, come on, guys. If you don't think the Met fans are waiting for the other shoe to drop, come on. Like, they booed Luis Turns off the mound when they had 19 runs, the most they ever scored in their history at home.
That's
So
insane.
let's just keep it going. Like 26 games ago, let's get it done, guys.
Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. I think we're incredibly frustrated with the way tonight has ended, unfortunately. But you know what? I always say this. I've said this for quite some time. We get to do it again tomorrow. Maybe it's double as frustrating as tonight was. Hopefully that's not the case. We want to come on here and talk about a win. Are we doing post game and pregame tomorrow? Are you good for both, or what are we doing?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, let's just come on here frustrated again. We enjoy it. We do it for a reason, right? So, yeah, this gonna do it for us. I mean, I think this team, like, they're not done. They need to get it together, but it just starts with what level of effort they show us. That's really it. And basically, here are your positives from today. The offense was good for the most part, right? The situational hitting with the leadoff triple was abysmal, but relatively good. Chris Davinsky was good. Gregory Soto was good. Is there any other positives? Because I can't find any others. Outside of Juan Soto, right, with the multi-home run game and just the offense in general, everything else is bad. A lot of
Yeah,
things to clean up. A lot of things to clean
Davinsky was really good. You know, Soto
up.
was excellent, and the fans showed up again for Lindor's bobblehead. I mean, they showed up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Matinee game tomorrow. It's gonna be Kodai Senga versus Sandy Alcantara. This team needs Kodai Senga to have a decent start, and we use decent like as a loose term because we don't even know a decent start for Kodai Senga, what that barometer even looks like anymore. So, we'll catch you all tomorrow early for the pregame. We'll talk about the upcoming matchup. We'll talk about the game recap. We'll do a post game stream just like we did both streams before and after the game. So hopefully you all can catch us on one of those, if not both of them. Make sure to hit the thumbs up buttons on both of our channels. These are always streamed to both of our YouTube channels. So again, if you only subscribe to one, subscribe to both. Hit the thumbs up on both. And yeah, there's nothing else to say. We'll see you all on tomorrow's stream. We'll catch you all later. Peace out.
let's go, Mets, guys.